Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by real fans for real movies. Please visit our website, holybatcast.com. It is your one-stop shop for everything Holy BatCast. But don't worry, you can also find us all over social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. You will find us. If you are a big fan of the show, we are also on Patreon. So if you love the show, want to help keep us in business, keep us rolling, we appreciate that. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And so I do have to thank our latest patron, Mr. Rody Michael Schement. And I hope I say your last name correct, Rody. But anyway, regardless, Rody,
I mean, if his name's Rody, I'm just going to call him War Machine, so we're cool.
I'm sure. So now we've got a bishop, we've got a War Machine. So yes, Rody.
I give everybody nicknames based on something geeky. So yeah. It's a high honor, people. Trust me on this.
It's perfect. So, Rody, thank you so much for doing that. We really do appreciate it. It means a lot to us. And everybody else who does the same, we can't thank you enough. I appreciate it. So, huge thank you. It's patreon.com/holybatcast. As always, I am Andy DiGenova, your host, your pal, your bat pal, your tour of Gotham, or your tour guide of Gotham. Anyway, if you want to follow me, you can do that on Instagram or on Twitter. That's right. Andy DiGenova, ANDYDIGENOVA. Now, this episode, we are going to be talking about the pilot to the new live-action Doom Patrol series that just premiered on DC Universe. And joining me for that, he is the robot man to my Crazy Jane. It's Jamie Drewley.
Outstanding. I like this. You're designating me who is currently my favorite character, so I'm good with this.
He kind of is the best character, but I wanted you to have this one.
Well, I appreciate that.
But how you doing, Jamie? We just did this, right? Like the last episode that's in the feed definitely wasn't recorded a few weeks ago. Definitely not.
Yeah, that wasn't a stale old episode that actually got listed out of sequence with the number it was recorded at or anything.
Nope, didn't. That is not what happened at all. It was completely as it was supposed to be. It was released as planned. It has been a few weeks. It's been a few weeks because
it has been a minute.
I've been traveling, and I'm so committed to this show. I'm recording this episode from my hotel room. So I hope that you fine listeners out there appreciate that I may be traveling, living out of a suitcase, but I'm still finding the time to record for you because I love you.
Anybody who listens regularly knows you travel constantly anyhow. So, I mean,
that is true.
Everybody just kind of shrugs it off and goes, whatever.
I never knew that would be my life, but somehow it became my life.
You seem to enjoy it for the most part.
I do, actually. I am one of those people who enjoys it, so I'm not complaining. It's just, trickier to do stuff like this.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I mean, in stark contrast to where we were the last time we recorded a show, I think I did like 6 or 7 podcasts in 1 week. I don't think I've done one in almost 2 weeks now.
Oh, wow. You've been on a break?
I know. Yeah, it's a really weird roller coaster thing for me all of a sudden.
Do you remember how to do it?
There's this shiny, oblong, kind of phallic-looking object that I just talk into, and somebody else does all the work after that.
That sounds accurate.
Okay. I guess I remember them.
Yeah, I was telling you before we started recording, I am so committed to keeping these shows rolling while I travel that I bought a second mic, one that was a little more travel friendly.
That's dedication if I've ever heard it.
Well, and that's where I thank our patrons because they help me with that.
I bought this really nice recording mic because my old junky $12 headset croaked on me. That's the only reason I got this. So but he's way more dedicated to you people than I am. I can tell you that much.
It's worth it. Well, I mean, we did that one over the holidays, and I just used my laptop, and listening back to it was a little painful because I'm like, man, my laptop mic is so crappy. Didn't even sound like me.
There's a reason they charge the money for these shiny beauties that they do, I suppose.
That is true. That is accurate. So, anyway, It's good to be back. It's good to talk to you, and it's good to talk to all those fine folks out there. But here's the craziest thing about this episode before we get to Doom Patrol. This is 199, Jamie. Holy
It's a near milestone event.
We're so close. We're so close to 200, and then we're packing it up, and that's the end. We're going to go out on top on episode 200.
Yeah, I mean, the 201 is just too much to ask for.
It is. It's ridiculous. We want to go out on a high note, like Shrek 5.
There's a 5?
I think so. I just remember Jeffrey Katzenberg was like, we always knew that Shrek, had a limit. And we want to go out while we're on top with the 5th film. I'm like, you are ridiculous and you have no self-awareness. You have beaten this dead horse and it is dead. Stop.
I didn't realize there were 5 of them.
Shows
you what I know.
There are 5 of those damn things.
I guess if you count like the Puss in Boots movie, maybe.
That's 6. Anyway,
all right then.
That's neither here nor there. Point is this: we're almost up to 200. So we got something planned. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be a little different, a little unique, but I think it'll be fun.
Hopefully, I'm looking forward to it because you know way more about it than I do.
I know.
This is going to be mostly a surprise to me, just like it is all the listeners out there. So.
It's a need-to-know scenario, and you don't need to know, Jamie.
Well, fine.
Yeah.
I'll just sit here and drink my beer and go along for the ride with everyone else.
Because essentially all it is we're doing a burn book of you, of Jamie Drewley.
Oh.
So that's why I don't want you to know. I don't want to hurt your feelings until the time is right.
Okay, then.
Jamie Drewley.
As long as it doesn't say I'm too gay to function or something, I guess.
Is a fugly lesbian. Or whatever it is. Anyway.
Don Schweitzer is a fat virgin. Well, half of that's still true. Sorry, I love that movie. I've got most of it committed to memory.
Oh, it's so good. Okay. Anyway, so yes, 200 is coming up quickly, and I'm excited about it. But in the meantime, we got to get through 199, and it's crazy. So we are going to dive into the next new series that we've gotten thanks to the DC Universe. So this is a great episode and a great thing to talk about for all of our listeners in the United States of America. And as always, we'll have to put out the disclaimer for everybody who doesn't live in the United States, who does not have DC Universe. We're sorry. We're so sorry. But, I mean, the DC Universe keeps feeding us, and so we think it's only appropriate to discuss and celebrate the content that we're getting. So we discussed Titans, already got through season 1 of that. We're halfway through season 1 of Young Justice Outsiders. I didn't know they were going to just stop us halfway through the first season and make us wait.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that that's what they're doing, but somehow that mid-season portion of Young Justice still felt like more of a season finale than Titans did.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I caught up on it on an airplane, so I am up to date on Young Justice. But I guess they were like, oh, we're going to pause. Like, they're committed to giving new content every week, and so I guess they were like, oh, well, Doom Patrol is premiering, so let's find a good stopping point for Young Justice, and then we'll do Doom Patrol, and then when there might be a gap between Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing, and they'll fill that with Young Justice.
Well, Doom Patrol is 15 episodes, so we got 14 more weeks of that coming. So I think I read somewhere that Young Justice is coming sometime in the summer, coming back sometime in summer. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it when it gets back. Meantime, it looks like I might be entertained by this.
Sweet. Well, don't get ahead of yourself because, we finally got the pilot of Doom Patrol, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the new Doom Patrol series from DC Universe.
Did they wind up dropping anything in the? I mean, I know they announced. I think the Batman finally got released on the app, but there was like nothing new like that behind the scenes thing or anything that came in the middle of that break, either, was there?
Not that I saw. I haven't.
If there was, I didn't see what it was.
Yeah, I haven't really looked, but yeah, like they dropped the Batman onto the app, and some of our listeners were nice enough to let us know because there are some fans of that show out there who want us to cover it, and they were like, "Hey guys, there's no excuse; it's out there." So Noted. And then Green Lantern the series also got put on the app.
That would be a quick one because I believe it's only one season.
It is, and I watched it when it was new, and I liked it. I was bummed when it got canceled. So
I never got really into the animation style very much, although I do think the animation style fit with that show better than it would have pretty much anything else that they used. But I really enjoyed the stories, and I only saw maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 episodes, maybe 4. And I really liked what I saw, but it's just one of those shows that I lost track of because that was before I had a DVR or any of that stuff. So
right. No, it was really good. I was not thrilled with the animation when it first premiered, but I got used to it pretty quick, and I really liked it. It was really cool. So that's on the app too. But that's all old stuff that we already had, or we had access to, but now it's more readily available. Doom Patrol's brand spanking new, and I'm amazed by how quickly they got this thing going. I feel like they only started filming it a few months ago. But I also feel like Titans was like that, where like they were like releasing as they were filming, like as they went, you know. I guess that's how most TV shows do it.
I was going to say that most of the network shows and stuff that you deal with, that's what they have. But like the shortened season stuff, like premium cable stuff, like say Game of Thrones or True Detective or things like that. I mean, those are all in the can before they go to air, I think. But you know, your network stuff, I think, is, I don't know, probably 6-7 weeks behind on what the shooting schedule is as far as its release. So
yeah, it's probably like that. But because they shot it, and then a few months later, here we are looking at the pilot. And so Doom Patrol has premiered. The pilot is available on DC Universe, or if you don't live in the United States, your VHS copies are on the way from me to you because I love you. And so here we've got Brendan Fraser as Robot Man, Matt Bomer as Negative Man. Is that right? Negative Man. Yeah. Diane Guerrero is Crazy Jane. April Bowlby is Elastigirl. And the one and only Timothy Dalton as the Chief. And Alan Tudyk as Mr. Nobody. So a heck of a cast here. Another Berlanti-produced show, but it seems like it is being run by Jeremy Carver, who I'm not familiar with that name, but he must be from the Berlanti camp. So before we get into the nitty gritty, spoiler free, what did you think of Doom Patrol?
I want to preface this all by saying I know that they've had some Doom Patrol stuff on the app to read, and I've never read a panel of a Doom Patrol comic before, and I actually chose purposely in this case not to read any of it. I wanted to go in the show 100% fresh and without any expectation. So as I comment about what I think of the show, keep in mind, I have no reference other than the show to make for it. I am literally basing this show solely on what the show is showing me. So as far as this first episode, I mean, it kind of caught me right off the bat. There were some moments that I thought were shocking, maybe for not the right reasons. We'll get into that as we get over the wall and such. I enjoyed the characters that were presented as they were presented. I think there was some good character work there. There were some choices stylistically that I think most of which worked pretty well as far as like the layout with the voiceover. I don't know if that's going to be a continuous thing as the show goes, or if that's just for an episode or maybe 2 episodes. I'm not really sure, because it was kind of working in an introductory capacity for the characters. I think it worked mostly great in that. I think Fraser and all the rest of the cast did a really good job. I was very invested in what they were showing me, and I think what I set out in my initial thoughts on it, and I think it still applies as I've stewed on it for a couple of days now. I think mostly the show was brilliant. I think it was weird. I mean, weird is an understatement for what's going on here, and kind of tragic. And I don't mean that as a slight against it. I think it's the kind of tragic that you can appreciate if you're into strong character moments, which again, I think that was truly the strength of this show, was the character moments, at least in this first episode. So I really enjoyed what I saw, and I'm definitely looking forward to see what's coming next with it.
Nice. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. pretty much agree with everything that you said. I don't have a huge knowledge base of the Doom Patrol. I am casually familiar with the main characters, and that's just because they've popped up in other things that I've read here and there, but I've never read, I don't think, a Doom Patrol comic. I think I just know them from where they've popped up elsewhere and from like Who's Who books and old trading cards, stuff like that, where I'm like, oh yeah, I know Robot Man. I know Elastigirl, like I've heard of them. I could pick them out of a lineup, but I couldn't tell you what their backstories were until now. And so, yeah, I was going in relatively fresh as well. But yeah, I think this is a great pilot for the show. I think that they really take the approach that they know that most people aren't familiar with these characters. They know they're dealing in a more obscure corner of the DC universe. And so this whole pilot is just about getting you up to speed on everyone, who they are, what their origins are, and getting you invested in them as characters. And so this first episode is very expository, and it is getting very succinct origin stories for the main core team. But I think that's necessary because I don't know that there are many Doom Patrol super experts out there. And so it has to be that way. And I think that it's really effective in the way that it does that. You do really follow Cliff/Robot Man. He is sort of your through line through the entire episode. But as he meets everyone else, we keep jumping back and learning about who everyone is. But it's a great pilot. And then you get to know all these characters. I think all of the actors are great in their parts. I was impressed with everyone. I think they were all so good. And so I liked everybody. I think they all look great. And then you're right, there's a style to it that I think is really unique and different because it's definitely a spin-off of Titans. It exists in that same world because we met them in Titans, but it still has very much its own voice. And the Doom Patrol, their motto is World's Strangest Heroes. And that is without a doubt accurate when you watch this pilot. It is super strange. It's super weird. And I like that they're leaning into that. You know, that is what makes the Doom Patrol unique. And so the fact that they're wholeheartedly jumping into that makes a lot of sense, and I think it works for it. What else? It definitely introduces a lot of questions and mysteries and threads that can be picked up and carried through the season, which I think is great. We do meet Alan Tudyk as the villain, Mr. Nobody, and I think he's great. I just want to say now, I've known it for years, but I want to say it out loud. Alan Tudyk is a national treasure. And I just think that whatever he does, he is incredibly good and incredibly entertaining. And I don't think he gets enough credit because he's amazing. And
I fully co-sign that. And you know what? I'm going to raise my hand to the other two people out there that actually loved that show on NBC, the superhero show that he was
Powerless.
on.
Powerless.
Yes.
I loved Powerless.
Oh, God. That show was just coming into its own when they gave it the axe. I want that thing desperately to show up on the app, but I doubt it will. As far as like new episodes anyway.
Yeah, I really
I saw some people discussing it the other day like, oh, it was terrible. I'm like, phooey on you. I love that show.
Yep, I did too. And he was a hoot on that show, and I like that he's remained in the family here.
This guy's, I mean, if he's not a real life hardcore geek, boy, does he play the part well.
He's got to be.
He must.
He just feels like one of us.
Yes, exactly.
Because he just does so much geek stuff, and he did that. I think it was a web series called Con Man that was all about like comic conventions. I mean, he's a big geek. He loves the stuff, and he keeps getting cast in all of it, and I love it. So he's great, and he provides the voiceover that you mentioned, and even the voiceover it's very knowing, it's very self-aware, it's very wink-wink, but like not in an annoying way, but in just the right amount.
I think they purposely play it over the top the way that they did, but I just somehow think it works. Tonally speaking, it's weird, but I think that's done on purpose because this show wants to be weird, and I'm okay with that because I think they've done it pretty well. 58 minutes in. I mean, it's hard to judge the entire show by the first episode, but if this is what they're going to give me going forward, where they're going to really go out of their way to bring that weirdness to the forefront, more power to them. I want to see it.
Absolutely. And the way, like, voiceover can be tricky in movies and TV because sometimes it can just be used as a narrative crutch and basically telling you or over explaining to you what you're already seeing. And in that respect, it can often be kind of eye-rolling and terrible. But in this case, yes, it gives you information, but there's enough personality and wit written into it, and then the line reading by Alan Tudyk gives it that personality that it actually adds to it and enhances what you're seeing.
And depending on what it is specifically that he's giving narration to as the episode proceeds, I think he dials it back at just the right moments too, which we'll touch on that when we get over the wall. But there's one delivery in particular that as soon as he said it, I was like, oh no, and my heart fell right down into my ankles, and then it happened, and I was like, oh. But it was played so well with how he did it because it's still that boisterous voice that he's using to give it, but it's not done in that jovial sense that he's done in a few spots leading up to that. Like when a moment needs to be serious, he doesn't go crazy over the top.
Right.
So that's why I say, to me, the way that it was delivered and how it was written and performed was spot on. I couldn't have asked for anything more or less in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And his look as Mr. Nobody, which we do see in this first episode, is great. I love it. I fully agree with that. I love how he looks. I love the design. I love how because if you've seen the comic version of Mr. Nobody, he's very cartoony, and it's hard to translate that to live action. And I think they did it in a way that was like very accurate, but you can still take it seriously. It's really cool.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of it because obviously a character like him presented in that way as his finished form, if you will, is a little bit of a budget killer. So I don't know that we're going to get a tremendous deal of him in that respect. At least, I'm making this assumption.
Well, it doesn't seem like he can go back and forth.
No, but I don't know that he's going to be. I think maybe that's how the voiceover thing came about, is they want to keep Tudyk involved, but they can't have him as a physical presence on the show as much, maybe. Mm-hmm. I'm again, speculation on my part. I don't know. For all I know, he's going to be in 10 minutes of every episode like that. I don't have any idea. Mm-hmm. Because you could make the case. I assume most of Robot Man is not a costume. It's probably quite a bit of CG involved with that. So
I think most of it's practical.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I could be wrong, but if it isn't, it convinced me. Like I think it looks like it's really there.
Practical or CG, either way, he looks great. Sounds great. Everything about him, I love every bit of his design. So, credit to the people working on that I can't tell if it's CG or practical, but. Like I say, either way, it's commendable what they did with his character.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the designs all around are great. They're comic book accurate, and yeah, I guess they're tweaked, but like not enough that it matters. Like they all look like their comic book counterparts, and I dig it. Like Robot Man looks great, Mr. Nobody looks great, Negative Man looks great, Elastigirl looks great. I assume she'll get more of a costume type thing later, but even so, she still kind of looks the part. I think they all look really awesome. I think the design work is really well done.
I agree, and you know what? I don't need a costume for her. I don't know. Again, no familiarity with the characters, so I can't gripe about costumes or commend costumes for anybody here because I don't know them. But in her case, constantly dressing like a glamorous 50s movie star, I think is magnificent because I love those kind of styles anyway. So.
Oh, yeah. No, I love her look and I love her character, which we will get into, but I want to get into it in spoilers because I have some things to say about it. But yeah, like, and it is so interesting that all these characters all come from different time periods. I don't know if that's spoilery, but they all. I don't think it is because they literally come right out of the gates at the opening sequence in I think it's 1945 or 6 or something like that. 48. I think it's 48.
48. Yeah, it is because I remember thinking it was a couple years after the end of World War II. So yeah, you're thrown into the mix, 70, 80 years in the past. So I don't think that's any kind of spoiler there.
Yeah, but each of these different members of the Doom Patrol all come from like a different decade. So she came from the 50s. Negative Man came from the 60s. We find out Crazy Jane came from the 70s, and then Robot Man came from the 80s.
Yeah, you're right.
And then I'm assuming when we meet Cyborg, he will come from the 90s. Or maybe he'll be current, but yeah. So it's just interesting how they kind of span the time periods. There was something else I was gonna say.
Do you know off the top of your head, is Beast Boy supposed to be in this season at all? Or?
I have no idea. It would make sense if he was, because this is where he came from. So I could see a cameo or a guest spot for him, but I've not heard that will happen.
I was curious about it because I was wondering if they did, it would almost have to be in a flashback capacity and versus a current time period because of where Titans is at. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know either way whether or not he would. I mean, again, logically it would make sense because of him being the bridge between the two shows for their introduction. But
right,
and clearly they're not afraid to play with the whole flashback thing in the show, which is fine. I don't have any problem with that. I was just curious if you knew specifically whether or not he was coming.
Yeah, it's not been mentioned, but again, it wouldn't be a surprise. I think it would make sense and it would be cool. I'm all for it. But yeah, for a pilot episode, I think it's great. I think it's real. The music is great. I noticed as well. And I think that it just does a great job of introducing you to these characters, to this world. You meet the villain. You don't really know what he's up to yet, but he's intriguing. It does a great job of setting all the pieces in place that then we can follow through the season. I think there's a lot to be said about a lot of these characters are not great people. You know, specifically Cliff, Robot Man.
Yeah, he's...
But I think that the actors are so good that even though these are flawed characters, you're still rooting for them and you still sympathize with them. At least I did.
I think that's perfectly agreeable because there were moments with, I don't want to say everybody, but specifically with Robot Man and a little bit with Elastigirl, where I was like, man,
yeah, Cliff and Rita. Yeah, Cliff and Rita, I think are the biggest ones where they, you know, they're not great people, and I think they will get there. I think that's by design.
Right.
But
they've already set him up to make his U-turn and be redeemed or whatever you call it.
Right.
In her case, the setup isn't quite as clear, but yeah, I think they'll be in the same boat. I mean, these aren't unlikable characters, but they're not characters that you're going to be really sympathetic with in every circumstance that they show you, which is fine. I think the complexity of a character being done that way, it makes it more interesting.
No, it is, and that's it's a tough needle to thread in giving the character flaws, making the character make mistakes, making the character sometimes be an a-hole and still getting the audience to root for them and want and sympathize with them and want to see them do better. Sometimes shows or movies can take that too far and I find myself rooting against who I should be rooting for. And then sometimes it's just right where I'm like, yeah, he's kind of an a-hole, but he knows it and he's trying to be better, and so I'm rooting for him. Mm-hmm. And this is that, you know? I think Rita's got a little ways to go, but we'll talk about that too. I feel like Cliff has already started to make that shift. I think Rita's not quite there.
No, not quite, but I don't think she'll be very far behind.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but again, like it's all great stuff to play with over the next season or 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
And you know, everybody gets a little bit of time there. I think Cliff and Rita have more time than anyone else in this first episode, and I think he's got significantly more time with her, at least as far as where he is at as a character then and now, both. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that I mentioned earlier, he so far is my favorite thing about the show, but to be fair, he's definitely been focused on more than any of the other ones have. So
we meet the Doom Patrol
to change that
by going through the journey with him. So, yeah. Anyway, the other thing I will say about it that I don't think is spoilery is much like Titans, this is another R-rated live-action DC show.
Yeah, this thing lets you know about 7 or 8 minutes in that it makes Titans look like Teen Titans Go. I mean, not quite to that degree. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but this one hit that stride of for mature audiences only much more severely and much more quickly than what Titans did, I think. Because, Titans' big thing in that first episode was F Batman. And then they kind of, slowly bled other things into it as the season went on. This one just right out of the gates is just like, nah, send your kids out of the room. This ain't for them.
Right. Which is so interesting to me. And I'm not against it. I just don't quite know the rationale between Titans and Doom Patrol of going, nope, it's R-rated. And I just think it's an odd choice. I'm not convinced it's necessary. Again, it doesn't really detract from my enjoyment of the show because, hey, I like nudity and violence, so it's fine for me. But it's just an interesting choice, and I don't know why they're so committed to being like, nope, for mature audiences.
They've chosen to do this the way that they want to do it. That's fine. I'll go along with the ride. I'll just say in my stern daddy voice, I don't necessarily approve of it.
Right. And I get that. Like, again, and it's one of those things where, like, I see both sides. It doesn't necessarily detract from my enjoyment of it. But again, like if I were the businessman, I'd go, well, wouldn't you want it to maybe attract a larger audience? But, it is what it is. But this, for those at home listening, yeah, Doom Patrol is another R-rated TV show, just like Titans. And
it's hard R. It's not pussyfoot R. It's hard R.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a little explicit. So... be that as it may, and far more F-bombs, I think, than Titans as well.
That's what I'm saying. Titans got to the point by the time, I don't know, maybe was it episode 2 or 3 with Hawk and Dove? I mean, they got pretty liberal with the word in that one. This one, like I said, just right out of the bat, right out of the gates. It just opens it all up and lays it all on you.
Right.
Totally. So Titans was like your gateway drug to this, I suppose, as far as what they're going to show you, mature content wise.
Yep. Absolutely. So anyway, put that disclaimer out there. Your mileage may vary depending on how much that kind of stuff bugs you, but this is TVMA. But all that said, I loved the first episode. I did watch it twice. I think it's great. I can't wait for more. So for me, the DC Universe original content has been very satisfying indeed. I loved Titans. Of course, Young Justice Outsiders is amazing. And then this, man, strong start for Doom Patrol. I'm in.
I don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse because we're just, a couple days into the Doom Patrol era here. But I really cannot wait to see what happens with Swamp Thing when that hits now.
Right.
Which I believe is May, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah. It's sometime in the summer. But yeah, so far they're doing great. Oh, and that was the other thing I wanted to say is that much like Titans, it's very cinematic. I do not feel like I'm watching a cheap show.
No,
it looks great. Yeah,
it's good, really good production value on pretty much every front. I mean, the acting and writing seem to be really strong. The special effects, I tend to my older years not to be critical of special effects because, again, I'm trying to appreciate what they're giving me, and sometimes they have to do certain things, and their budget may not allow them to do them the best in order to show them to me. I appreciate the effort maybe more than the finished product. But in this case, I don't even have any real gripes to lay into that. Mm-hmm. Nor I didn't with Titans either, so I mean that's fine there, but. No, you're absolutely right. Everything about the production value of the show is top notch.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, and that includes the effects. Like we said earlier, the effects are really strong, and just the way it's shot really well. It's great. So, Doom Patrol, definitely worth your time. And I do think that DC Universe is doing a great job of making my $4.99 a month worth it. I could not agree more about. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And one last thing, because this isn't really necessarily a spoiler, and it's not even important. I just want to say it out loud so I can say that I've said it. There's something about the way Mr. Robot Man's eyes are done that I love. I don't know if they're somehow subtly making them that expressive or just I don't know what it is about his eyes that I think are just great. Like
I could sit there and stare at images of his face with his eyes, like looking at the camera, and be content. I mean, I know that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I just love the way they have his eyes in this.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And as we mentioned, he really is the heart of the show, and that I think comes from that.
Yeah, let's get over the wall so we can talk about more of that.
Cool. All right. Well, there you go. If you have not watched Doom Patrol, be warned, we're going to speak freely, but it is worth watching. So find a way to watch it. Hopefully, you have a way to watch it. If not, I'll send you the VHS. But Doom Patrol, both Jamie and I really, really liked it. I would even say I loved it. I was really, and especially someone who I don't really have a huge amount of investment in the Doom Patrol, but this really got me invested and sold me on it, and I think it will for you too. So check it out.
I agree, and I'm actually going to hold off on reading any of that stuff until I've watched this whole season, because again, I don't want any distractions from it. I just want to appreciate the show for what the show is, and then I'll circle back around probably after the first season and start reading a little bit of that. Maybe, the first issue of their first series. I hear a lot of people praising the Morrison run really highly, so I'll probably check that out, because this does strike me as something that would be right up Grant Morrison's alley. So I think that would really work. Yeah,
and my understanding is this really does key off of that. It's using that as kind of its basis.
Okay. So yeah, I'll come back around to reading that, and maybe even throw out a request for some reading recommendations or stuff once I get done with it. But I do want to just see where the show takes me, and then come back around to the source material after the fact.
Yeah, when I feel like that, I need to check, but that's something that they should just put up on DC Universe now that they're promoting Doom Patrol anyway. I feel like they should put the Morrison run up there as like.
I'm pretty sure the Morrison run is up there, because I know a couple of people have been reading that and mentioning things about it in the comic group and on Twitter both. So cool. I'm pretty sure that's up and running over there. They did just a few weeks back or a month ago, whatever it was. They added a crap ton more comic stuff on there. So.
Oh, they really did. Yeah, within the past month, they loaded.
Like there's a lot more complete runs. Like before, there was just a few issues here and there, a lot of number one issues, things like that. Now there's like boatloads of complete runs in there.
Mm-hmm. They put the entire Death of Superman run up, from like Road to Doomsday, Death of Superman, Funeral for a Friend, World Without Superman, Reign of Superman, Return of Superman. They put it all up, and I downloaded it all for my trip to Europe, and then I didn't actually get around to reading it. But it's all on my iPad, ready to be read when I have the time. But I saw that,
that's got to be a solid 50 or 60 issues worth of material there, maybe more, if they have all the crossover stuff involved anyway.
So, I know. So much.
I have the collected volumes of them in trade, and they're probably 2 to maybe 2.5 inches thick for each one of the volumes. And there's at least 3 volumes.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of reading. It took me months to get through it when I read it in trade.
Sweet. Anyway, moving on. Doom Patrol, spoiler warning is out there. We're going to speak freely, so if you have not seen it and you are worried about spoilers, now is the time to skip ahead to the Wayne Manor Mailbox. But anyway, warning is out there, Jamie. What do you want to jump to?
Cliff is kind of an asshole. I cannot believe he's screwing the babysitter in the guest house. But, I get tense about stuff like that anyway, because that sort of thing is not appealing to me, like in the way that's presented. But then later on, when they show that the wife is kind of doing the same thing to him, it's like, okay, I kind of get it now. Like there's back and forth going on with that. Because that was a moment there I was kind of like, oh, I'm not really going to like this if this is the character that they're going to show me. But they make the recovery so quickly, showing like how much he loves the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And, they don't really get back to the real meat with the daughter until much later in the episode. And when they did, I almost started crying when that happened. But we'll come to that when we get to it. the Mr. Nobody thing, I mean, right off the bat, they introduce him going to this, crazed German scientist in Central America or South America, wherever he's at, to have some experiment done on him, which does some weird stuff to him. And at least I had trouble following it because I didn't know. I mean, I figured they were trying to get him to be able to do something. I wasn't really clear on what they were doing with him. And then he tells him the saying about something about the mind. I don't remember what the verbiage was. I only
the limit is the mind, something like that.
The mind is the limit, or something.
There
like
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
That's right. The mind is the limit.
Yeah. Which comes to the last scene, or just about the last scene of the show, which I have serious questions to ask about that, but we'll again cross that when we come to it. They do a lot of bouncing back and forth in the time periods, especially with Cliff in this first episode, because again, you spend more time with him than with anybody else. But they do it so effectively. Like 1 minute they make you hate him, then the next minute they make you feel utterly sorry for him, and then you understand kind of why he acts the way he does. And then the visions of him trying to take those first steps as Robot Man, what he sees in his mind to make that come to pass. Just really strong work done with him. And I think Fraser, and again, everybody did great, but I really think Fraser is doing some of the best work I've ever seen him do. Maybe the best work I've ever seen him do.
Yeah, he's great in it, and and I think it says a lot for his own just innate charisma and talent, in that, he's not a great guy, but you still feel for him, and you want him to be better. Right.
And they kind of paint the picture, at least my translation of it was, he's almost like a victim of his own positive circumstances. Like, everything came to his head. Like they started off with the really meager beginnings, and he was so in love with her. And, it came about that, he became this massive success, known the world over to the racing community, which, that if you know any racing fans, which my family, there's a lot of racing fans in my family, they're psychotic. They make football fans like me look absolutely tame by comparison, the way they love and hate these race car drivers that they watch. So
this felt like the non-comedy version of Talladega Nights, where they're like all in love when they're young, and then he gets all successful, and then they're married, but they hate each other. It's kind of the same as Ricky Bobby.
The whole thing feels like a country song, so it just completely makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I didn't think she was actually cheating on him. I think she was just screwing with him because she hated him. So I because the one guy, I believed the guy when he's like, no, I'm not sleeping with her. And she was like, oh, yes, he is. I don't think that dude was. I thought she was just being an asshole because she wanted him to crash. Like, she was trying to distract him because she wanted him to crash because she was disappointed when he didn't.
I mean, I guess we can kind of jump to it now.
When he avoided death, and she was like mad that he avoided death.
Right. I mean, they make you think that that's the moment where it happens, and then they kind of have like the RoboCop thing happening with him, where like his vision will turn on, and you'll kind of see it from his perspective in the little, rectangle, and it'll go in and out, and he'll hear people talking. I mean, that was very reminiscent of RoboCop, and I don't believe that was unintentional. Which I love RoboCop anyway, so that's fine if they want to borrow from that. But again, in his case, instead of jumping all around, I'll just address it now, because they show you the moment on the racetrack where you think he got in the accident and it caused it. And then later on, they show you, no, that was not the moment. He actually evaded that and won the race and came out and beat the hell out of the guy that he thought was sleeping with his wife, and, had his little moment pushing her away, and then had his moment in the trailer with the groupie or whatever it was, if you will.
I think that was the nanny again.
Was it the same?
I think so. I think it was the same gal.
Okay. I wasn't looking at her closely.
So at least he's monogamous with his side piece.
I guess.
But yeah, see, that was the part, is like, what bugged me is when he beat the crap out of that guy, because I totally don't think that guy did anything wrong. His wife was just using him to make him jealous. And so when he beat the crap out of him, that's where I was like, oh man, like, you need more facts before you do that. Like, I felt like she was not trustworthy in that moment. But
No.
that was where I was like, he's not. Oh man, don't do that. But
And she plants it on him, when they're playing nice in front of the crowd, and she's like, I hope you crash and die a fiery death or whatever she said.
Yeah, she said, "Crash and die, honey." Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, these two are in just about the most dysfunctional relationship that you could possibly imagine already. But anyway, they kind of play that psych out on you. But sometimes I get annoyed when they change times and perspectives and things to make you see something. Like, I think that can be really clumsily done. Here, I think it was really well done, because it's like, oh, that wasn't what happened. So now tell me what really did happen. And he goes to the in-laws' house or whatever it was. He's apologizing to her. Chief has that recording, that telephone recording that apparently an answering machine caught and was playing it for him, and that's how he kind of learns where it happens. And he goes and picks up the wife and daughter, and they're talking, and he's got his IROC or whatever it is, the most common sports car of the 1980s, of course. And then that accident happens. That's really what caused his situation and killed the wife, and we believe killed the daughter as well. That part, I got choked up really hard with that. Because now, instead of just being the tragedy of him being the one that crashed in the race, now he's the one that is going to be blamed for the death of the wife and daughter, which to me is always a tragic circumstance. But
yeah. I thought the fake out worked great. Like I bought it, and then when you find out what really happened, I still bought it. I was like, oh God, that's even more tragic, because he was actually already trying for his redemption when that happened. So he got cheated out of his own redemption.
Absolutely. It's, then more to come on that later. Rita being the snooty star of the silver screen in the 1950s, and kind of how she treats people off camera. She's really bought into her public persona and what they think of her. Like, everything is the image of her beauty, and that's what everybody loves and what they know. And I don't know that I felt a vibe necessarily that she was being racist with that camera crew in Africa, but she was definitely off-put by the guy that was missing the arm. Right.
It didn't seem like it was a race thing, but here's what I loved about Rita and hated about Rita is that, this is a person who only cares about appearances. She defines herself by her appearance. And so when she sees someone who's missing an arm, she's so disgusted by it that she won't work with him. So it wasn't a race thing, but it was all about appearances. And then the fact that that's the one thing that got taken away from her is, it's like The Simpsons, the Hall of Ironic Punishments.
Yep.
And even in the present, she still seems to have those hangups, where, she's getting annoyed with Cliff because he can't walk yet. And she's like, and her ego is still what's ruling her. That's how Crazy Jane gets her to come out. It's like, oh, the world hasn't seen you in a while, and it works. And she calls it out. She says, oh, you're appealing to my ego, and it works though. Makes her go out, and she wants to go out and be seen. She wants everyone to tell her how pretty she is. Mm-hmm. So the fact that this is a person that all that matters to her is that people think she's pretty, and then that's what circumstances took away from her, is kind of brilliant.
Because it's eventually, one would think, going to have to bring out her inner beauty to compensate.
Right.
That's, again, my assumption of what's going to happen. Because, there's glimmers of it maybe starting to happen, but not anything set yet. But, again, not a lot of time spent with the other characters in relation to where you were at with Cliff / Robotnik.
I feel like we got a glimpse of it in that episode of Titans. She seemed to be a little more protective of I want to say Ryan. That's the actor, Gar. There was a little bit more of a motherly sense with her and Garfield in the Titans episode. Mm-hmm. But here, she still seems to be somewhat shallow, a little selfish, and she's got to get there.
Right. And she clearly is accepting these people as her surrogate family and whatnot, which I think all of them are kind of reaching that point. Jane is to me fascinating. I don't want to say that she's my favorite because I don't know her as well, but can you imagine the ability to play with a character that literally has 64 personalities, each one with its own power set?
Yeah.
As a writer of comics or television or movies or anything else, can you imagine the times that people must have just foaming at the mouth to experiment with something like that?
Right. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to keep them straight as a viewer.
I guess you're going to have to depend on them calling her the name, because so far the only ones that readily showed up that I caught were Hammerhead, Jane, and there was one other one, like the Hangman's daughter or something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember now. So again, to me, that character has potential for really great things to come out of her.
Well, and I'm also not sure which one of those personalities turned into like the big fire monster.
Well, I think that one probably was its own different personality there. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. So, but no, you're right. It's a lot of fun for the writer, and it'll be a lot of fun to see all those different things. And it's asking a lot of the actor, of Diane Guerrero, but I think she's really good. You know.
Right.
I like the little bonding that she has with Cliff. I think that that's really nice. And I thought, and that's why I was getting at earlier with the different time frames, is I thought I like picked up on a problem, because essentially, you know, Cliff, his accident's in 88. He's finally assembled and somewhat functional in 95. And then we get this montage that essentially takes him all the way to the present, to 2018. And once we're in the present, that's when Crazy Jane shows up. And she's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, he's been there now 30 years. How do you guys not know each other? And then when she says, "Oh, you know, I met them in the 70s. And so one of her personalities allows her not to age. But once they said that, I was like, okay, all right, I'll allow it now. So because at the first I was like, really 30 years and you're acting like he's the new guy? But if they met in the 70s, who knows how long she's been gone. Now they're okay. They've got a window. But I do think that the episode of Titans happens somewhere in that montage because she wasn't in it. It was everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would make sense.
The other thing is, Timothy Dalton is Niles Caller, the chief. And so we talked about that with the Titans episode because it was not played by Timothy Dalton. It was played by a different actor. And I wasn't sure if they were just... I think you're the one who said, oh, they probably just recast it. And I was like, or there's something going on with the chief and that's not really the chief. And I started having a conspiracy theory. And it turns out, I think you were right. They just recast. It's supposed to be the same guy. Now it's just Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, and I don't really have a big issue with that. I mean, I didn't have a problem with the other guy playing the part, and I certainly don't have a problem with Dalton. I think he was great. But the one thing that I found intriguing was I thought he was mainstay to the series. You know, I thought he was going to be main, like every episode showing up and doing what he does. In the opening credits, I noticed immediately when his name showed up, it was like special appearance by or something to that effect. Yeah. Indicating that he was not going to be in every episode, not probably a recurring regular, but not an every episode regular kind of character.
Well, so here's the thing. There's a weird union-y compensation thing. And so you get paid a certain amount if it says guest starring, and you get paid a certain amount if it says featuring, and you get paid a certain amount if it says special appearance by. So it's all these weird semantics that tier up to different pay rates. And so that's why, even though she was on the show for like 5 years, Heather Locklear in the opening of Melrose Place, it always said special guest star Heather Locklear, even though she was a regular on the show for 5 years, because she got paid differently. And so
I didn't watch Melrose Place, so I don't know.
It was great, and you should. But I think it's that. I mean, yes, there's certainly a possibility that he's going to be in and out, because we even see in this episode, he goes out on some sort of adventure. It's a great moment, though, when he says it, and they're so used to him saying it that they say it along with him. I wish I knew the quote, but it was something about there are strange things in the world that need my attention, blah, 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 blah. And they all kind of recite it along with him, which I think is a great moment. But we see that, and then even at the end of the episode, Mr. Nobody might be abducting him, and so he might be gone for an episode or two, leaving the Doom Patrol on their own. Could be. But I think special appearance by is more of a Union type thing.
Okay.
Because he was in
you
the
know
entire
more about that stuff than me,
he
so.
was in the entire episode. So
Oh yeah, but him talking about it. I'm going to be gone for a couple days, and clearly this is something he does regularly. That kind of leaves the door open for him to disappear for an episode or two, and not be in it. So, whatever. I'll go with it either way. It's not really a complaint. I just was kind of surprised by that because I expected him to be like top billing in the cast.
Oh, totally. No, I get it.
Because I think that's a great get for them to have him on the show. I mean, we've had a lot of people ask for him to be like Alfred in a Batman movie or, some capacity. I mean, the guy is a really solid actor. You talk to most Bond fans. Most Bond fans actually really like him. They just don't necessarily care for the movies that he did, and they think he was shortchanged on that front, which I happen to be one of those people that I generally agree with that. So seeing him get involved in projects that I'm interested in anyway usually, does my heart some good. I think he was an absolute blast in Hot Fuzz. So
oh, totally. No, he's always he's always good.
Yeah, and anytime I see him, I always like it. So having him when he was announced to be on the show, I was like, oh hell yeah, that'll work. So.
Yeah, so it is funny. Like the cast is great, and like you said, Timothy Dalton. I've heard people want him to be Alfred, and now he's the Chief. Matt Bomer. I know he auditioned for Superman at a certain point, and he'll still show up on certain fan castings. He's here as Negative Man. Alan Tudyk. We talked about he was in Powerless, and so he's here as Mr. Nobody. So it is like they took other. If they weren't part of the DC family, they were like almost part of the DC family, and they're all finally here. So it is interesting that way.
We'll henceforth refer to that as loosely connected legacy casting.
There you go. That works for me.
So, Negative Man is that's his name, right? Negative Man?
Yes.
Okay. The part that I was referring to earlier when it came to the voiceover and how there was definitely that one moment where I noticed that Tudyk dialed it down a little bit was they indicated that he was, a test pilot. I got a lot of Hal Jordan vibes from him. Only, more of a family man type of a Hal Jordan. But, a test pilot, really good at what he does. Maybe not, the hyper cocky attitude that Jordan has been displayed with in numerous iterations. But, he has that tragic accident where the plane goes down, and you think, okay, end of that. And, much like what they did with Robot Man, they went back and showed you. And I don't remember the segue that was made to it, but there was something talking about monsters, and Tudyk's voiceover was saying, but, at that moment, he felt like the biggest monster of all, or something to that effect. I don't even remember the exact thing that he said, but it was something along those lines where you could tell Tudyk was being serious when he was talking about this part.
Yeah,
and then
it was something like he'd always felt like a monster, and now he's actually become one. It was something to that effect. And
that sounds right. Again, it's been a few days since I watched it, and I only saw it the one time because of time. But him having the rendezvous with his buddy, the gay sequence there. I mean, that's obviously something that would not be accepted by anyone during this time frame in the early to mid 1960s. So you get why he would be carrying that guilt, especially having the wife and kid at home to keep up appearances or whatever. So I really, in that moment, the way the voiceover is delivered and the little rendezvous you have with the friend, and then the friend rushing out to the crash site and seeing the flaming body walking out of the crash and trying to put it out. I mean, that entire time, my heart just kept sinking lower and lower and lower for him, because it's like, I don't want to say that tragedy was felt by me in the way that Cliff thinking that his daughter was lost because of something he did, but it was effective. I really think it was effective the way that was put up there.
Oh, totally. It really was. And, like he obviously was very conflicted, but I think that, he's a lot more sympathetic. And when he finally like gets up the courage to walk out of the bus and walks into the bar, like, it was so simple, but it was so effective when he asked the bartender almost timidly, he's like, "Would you mind if I ordered a drink?" And it was like heartbreaking. Like, he felt so uncomfortable just being out in public, where he felt like he had to ask permission to order a drink.
Right.
And like my heart broke for him in that moment.
And totally, but I also am really tense with that scene because I want to know how he was going to drink it. Is he going to drink it through the bandages? Is he going to get a straw and slip it in between them? I mean, what are we doing here?
I did wonder, like, can he actually drink?
Yeah, because I'm not.
I don't know. I don't know how it
sure
works.
what
I'm trying
his
to remember
power set
because
does.
he can cook because he cooked in Titans, but did he actually eat when they had that big meal?
I don't think he did. I don't think he did.
I have to rewatch it. But yeah,
and again, I don't know his power set. I mean, even after watching what he did, after Rita's incident in the street with the power lines, I'm not entirely sure what it is that he does exactly. Other than, maybe they want to indicate he doesn't have an actual body and he's just, the bandages are just something that represents a physical form for him, maybe. I don't know. I'm not clear on it.
Well, yeah, it's like, I feel like he essentially becomes pure energy, and usually it's contained, and that's what the bandages are, but sometimes it escapes because it started to come out and he was like, oh God, not now. And it was like he couldn't quite control it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that shot when Robot Man was like waking up, and there was a certain point where he wakes up and you see the energy version of Negative Man just kind of looking in. That was so cool.
Yes, that was really, really cool scene. Definitely.
So, yeah. So that was, I like his backstory was, I think, really strong. And again, I liked the way they wove everybody's backstory and origin into this. I think the one we get the least of is Crazy Jane. So I think there's more of that to come. But we still get enough that we, start to get to know her.
Yeah. I mean, again, refresh my memory for me. We didn't really do any flashbacks with Crazy Jane. It was just all verbal stuff that they were telling Cliff, right?
Right.
Okay. So yeah, the door's wide open for what to do with her. And again, to me, she seems like an amazingly fun character for a writer and maybe even the actress to play with and what they're going to be able to do. Let's put it this way. I won't be surprised at all that 5 or 6 weeks from now, I'm telling you she's my favorite character now. But we'll just see what happens.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Right.
I also am very curious as to see how Elastigirl, and on Wikipedia it says Elastiwoman, so I don't know which one's accurate. I always heard it Elastigirl, which is why. Here's a fun fact. So Elastigirl is obviously also the name of Helen Parr in The Incredibles. But if you go meet Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl at a Disney theme park, Mr. Incredible will sign his autograph, Mr. Incredible, but Elastigirl signs Mrs. Incredible because DC owns the word Elastigirl.
Interesting.
So I don't know how they got away with it to do it in the movie, but I think on merch and stuff it says Mrs. Incredible instead of Elastigirl.
Even on action figures and things?
I don't know. I'd have to check. All I know is that because I worked in the park, we were always like, God, that's so weird. Why does she sign Mrs. Incredible instead of Elastigirl? And it was a rights issue with DC.
Let's make an even trade and get Captain Marvel back then.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So,
yeah.
But right now, she also has a hard time keeping it together, if you will. And when she can't control it, then she just becomes essentially this massive, disgusting blob of stuff. So I'll be very curious to see how does she start to gain control of that so she can be more an Elastigirl that we would imagine instead of just becoming this big mess.
I would certainly hope so, but I'm along for the ride to see it either way. I do love her interactions with the waitress in the restaurant, talking about how her dad made her watch all her movies when she was younger, and
yeah,
she was actually indicating, you look just like this actress from the 50s, and then that sparked the discussion going back and forth, and then she makes the accusation or whatever you want to call it about her switching to porn after her film career ended.
Yeah,
I was cracking up laughing at that. The look of utter shock and offense on her face when that was indicated was hilarious.
Well, and I was confused by that. Did she actually do it and she hoped no one would know? Or
I did not get that impression from her. I mean, I don't know for sure because, again, I don't know the characters well enough. But if she was selling it as a shock and it didn't really happen, then she did a really good job of it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was the way she played it, as if she didn't actually do it. But again, it was so revealing the way, like, the waitress was like, "Oh, you remind me of Rita." What is it? Rita Farr. Rita Farr, me and my dad used to always watch it, and but when we went through some hard times, and Rita Farr got us through it. And she said, "Oh, I want you to tell me everything." And she goes, "Oh, about my dad?" And she said, "No." So she just wanted to hear about herself.
Right.
Which is, so I'm like, it's like, again, very just a revealing moment of like, tell me all about how much you love Rita Farr.
Definitely self-absorbed still in that moment. But, how long has it been since she's heard that? So in that moment, I wanted to give her character a little bit of indulgence because I'm like, oh, this will brighten up her day hearing about somebody whose family was a fan of hers. And then, the bomb gets dropped on her and it causes her to lose control in her circumstance. And, then it turns into a 50s sci-fi flick, which I got a huge kick out of that myself. But
yeah, like, yeah, when their field trip went awry, it was super entertaining.
Definitely. And, Robot Man in that moment showed the first spark of heroism that you really see from these people.
Right.
The busload of kids appears to be in some sort of imminent danger, and he lifts up that chunk of the road, which, it's a simple enough sequence, but, him holding that road up there to keep something bad from happening to the kids. And then, the ooze, if you will, starts to drip off the side, and then it kind of forms into Rita's face, and she's like, "I just want to go home now." I mean, that whole bit there, I think was a really strong moment in the show, and I really thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it.
Well, and I loved the way Robot Man paused and was like, "What do I do?" Like, you saw him taking in the situation and not quite knowing how to stop it or to help. And then you see him go, "Okay, well, let me try this," before he pulls up the road, So it was just kind of neat, is like, they're not used to being superheroes, not yet. And so he wants to help. He's just still a little reluctant. He doesn't quite know how to yet.
Right. And to me, that's part of the brilliance of this particular episode is that, yes, these people have some pretty spectacular abilities and can do some really amazing things, but do they even know what they're capable of doing at this point? And the answer is not really.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
some of them have some better ideas than others, of course. And, most of it is just complete improvisation. But, sometimes you see a superhero film, and I don't want to get critical of it, where, they show up and just all of a sudden they're doing these amazing things as a team. And that stuff is cool and it has its place. But I kind of like this other aspect of, they don't have any team chemistry. They don't really know what to do with themselves or with anyone else. They're just kind of reacting to a specific situation in the best way that they can think of in that moment. And to me, that really worked for what they were showing me here.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and they're not superheroes yet. Right now they're just trying to live with themselves, and it's not until the threat comes and the chief, who, yes, he's like the mentor figure, but he's no saint himself, where he's like, we run, we just leave. Mm-hmm. And it's only Cliff who's like, "And what about the town? We're just going to leave it?" And he's like, "Yeah, we are." And Cliff is the only one who wants to stay behind and help. And then eventually they all join him. But it's that moment where they become heroes. Up until then, they're just trying to figure out how to live their lives as the freaks that they are.
Right.
And so, I do love, like, again, there's some moments in the voiceover that I really loved. And one of them was when it says, and something about like, "And they became the unlikely group of heroes that that was expected by, well, everybody," or something like, it was something like that. Like we all knew it was going here, but here you go. Because even at the beginning, they're like, "Another TV show about superheroes. Are you sick of them yet?"
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some meta stuff going on there, but, again, played really well for the effect that they were going for.
Well, and I loved the critics. What do they know? They're going to hate this show.
Oh, yes. That was definitely somebody paying attention there. God, what was I just going to say? I had something on the tip of my tongue, and I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the donkey. If there's one thing about this episode that I'm not sure I really had any appreciation for, it's the donkey farting the green gas words up into the sky. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure that
I'm
works
not
for
sure I
somebody's
get
sense of
it.
humor. This is that maybe was just a step too far for me personally. I mean, if it worked for you, great. But I mean, that's I don't know.
I didn't quite
what
know
to make
what
of
to
it.
make. Yeah, exactly. I didn't know quite what to make of it. That's the perfect way of putting it. It
I'll
didn't
say
turn
this:
me
it,
off.
it
It just
definitely
went
blended in with the whole weird tone that they're going for with everything else.
right. It is weird.
Because at first I was like, "What the hell is the significance of the donkey?" And then they kind of show that picture in the flashback and whatnot. So I don't know.
Well, I'm still not sure what the significance of the donkey is, but obviously it's significant. So we'll have to wait and find out.
Maybe the donkey is like the henchman for no. God, I don't know. I don't. This show is so bonkers. It's tough to even speculate what's coming next, and I kind of like that about it.
No, totally. It's super unique, and I think they also do a really great job of showing us why they're outcasts and why they feel so outcast, because these aren't the kind of superpowers where you're like, yeah, cool, now I get to run fast and I still get to be me. It's like, no, you don't get to be you anymore. Your life will never be the same, and there's no way to make it the same. And so this is how you live now. Like there's that air of tragedy about it, and it's a whole different vibe.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And
Because-
I want to say this about the show. This is one of those circumstances where I'm really glad they're doing this as a TV show instead of a movie, because I don't know how you could possibly cram this much information, this much character, or anything else into a 2-hour and 15-minute movie and have it carry the same effect that this show has had so far.
Yeah.
I think there's just too much information for a general audience to process this, at least as it's being shown here. I don't know how you compress it down into something like that without at least having like a 2 or 3 movie idea inside, which of course is very risky with a property like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's cool because a whole new audience is going to be introduced to these characters and learn about these characters this way. And this is a great way to do it because, yeah, they can give you a lot more information that you would have got from a movie and go on this journey with them. So I think it was an unexpected choice to turn this into a show, but I can already see the promise of the show just from this pilot.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Anything else that we didn't mention about the pilot that you want to get in before we move forward?
I'm sure there is, but it's not coming to mind at the moment. So, if I text you in 2 hours and it's like, oh God, I forgot to mention this, then we'll know.
Oh, well, tough crap.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
But all right, great. Well, and I'm sure that much like we did with Titans and like we did with Young Justice, we'll check in on it as we go. But I think it's a hell of a strong effort.
Oh, all you international listeners, plug your ears real quick. This is me giving my middle finger to DC Universe because, again, they're doing this at 9 o'clock in the morning instead of 6 o'clock on Fridays. So I can't watch it before I go to work. I have to wait until I get home from work or watch it the next day, which means I have to spend the entire day and a half ducking spoilers on social media. So, yeah, this is me giving you the finger, DC Universe.
Well, this did jump back into like the Titans issue where, see, Young Justice, I saw no spoilers ever. Like, it was fine. But Titans, I would wake up and people would be sharing GIFs from the new episode, and I noted, I definitely got spoiled on a couple moments of this because people sharing it. I'm like, can't wait a day. Whatever.
People are in a hurry to be the first, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, all that aside, I think it's a great show so far. It's a great pilot.
Totally agree.
It left me wanting more. When it ended, I was like, can I watch the next one? And I could not. But that's the feeling you want to have after the pilot.
Totally agree. And I checked it, 15 episodes. So if we get cut short somewhere, I'll know this time.
And I'm all for seeing them team up with the Titans again later. I'm all for that. I think that'd be cool.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that dynamic will be very interesting, especially as as the Doom Patrol really gets to know themselves and what they're capable of, and really start formulating as a team. Of course, I could say the same at this point. I could say the same thing about the Titans, I guess, too. So, although Titans does have a couple more people that seem to be a bit more established in that respect than Doom Patrol does, but
right.
No, I'm very pleased with it. I really don't have. If there was things I was going to change, it would obviously be some of the mature content. I think is frankly, I think it's gratuitous and unnecessary. But if it works for you, great, whatever. I mean, I can't say seeing attractive women with no shirt on is a highly objectionable thing for me, but I just have to question sometimes whether this was the right choice of a place to use that at. And the farting word donkey thing, I'm just mind boggled by that completely. So
it's certainly weird, but that's what it's supposed to be.
I guess.
They kind of pride themselves on weird.
That was literally an audible WTF moment for me. The words came out of my mouth when that happened. So I guess they triggered their desired response out of the audience for it.
There you go. Nailed it. All right. Doom Patrol, world's strangest heroes indeed.
They are strange.
I like it. And I'm excited to go on these next 15 hours of adventures, or 14 hours. We've already gotten one down.
5 more days and we're into the next one already.
Sweet. So yeah, I'm digging it. Cool. Well, guys, check it out. It's great. More good stuff. More excellent DC content coming to us via DC Universe. But now we're going to move forward. We are going to check in with you fine folks as we crack open the Wayne Manor Mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor Mailbox.
You've got mail.
What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, let's see what we got here. This email comes from Mr. Jinkles. That's what it says. It says, hey guys. It says, hey guys. I recently started listening to your podcast and I'm loving your stuff. I'm also a big fan of Batman and the Batverse, and I'm really looking forward to Matt Reeves' Batman movie. I'm excited to hear that he's taking Batman back to his detective roots, and I'm also really excited about the Rogues Gallery that will be included. Along with being a Batman fan, I'm a big Joker fan. Nevertheless, I wasn't all that impressed with Jared Leto's Joker. I'm willing to give him a second chance, but due to recent news about Sony casting him as Morbius, I'm beginning to wonder what his future in the DC as well as the Joker's future is. What do you guys think? Do you think he'll stick with the Joker and do that and Morbius half and half, or do you think he'll defect over to Sony/Marvel and pass the Joker torch to somebody else? Also, what other movies do you think the Joker will star in? I personally want them to bring in a new Joker for the Batman in 2021, but we'll see where that goes. Looking forward to Joaquin's Joker and to see how it's tied to the DC universe. Keep up the great content, Mr. Jinkles. Thanks, Mr. Jinkles. It's a good question. Jamie, what do you think Jared Leto's future looks like?
I don't know. I think if Warner Brothers is smart, or whoever, Hamada, whoever you want to lay the blame at for the feat of this, they'll leave the options open to bring him back at a later time. I think Leto's a fantastic actor, and I think that his Joker was kind of shortchanged in the version of Suicide Squad we got. I don't think we can base anything off of it solely on what we saw there. Just like, if you saw Suicide Squad before you saw BVS or Justice League or any of that other stuff, it would be hard to really get the basis of what kind of Batman Ben was really going to be just based on the limited amount of screen time he had there. So I kind of think that's where Leto's Joker's at too. For me personally, I like Joker. I really do. I don't have any real objections to Joker, but I'd like to see somebody else get a chance. I mean, we've seen 4 if you count Cesar Romero cinematic live-action Jokers at this point. We've got 0 Mr. Freezes, none whatsoever at all, none. Mm-hmm. No Poison Ivies, none there. We've got 0 of those. So My point being is, give us a Riddler, give us a Mr. Freeze, give us a more realized Scarecrow. Bane, he's had 1.5 shots at this point, so I don't know. Joker's obviously iconic. He's very important to the Batman mythos. He's very important to the history of the character. But I'm ready to see somebody else get up on a stage and really get a light shown on him the way that Nicholson had with his Joker, or that Heath Ledger had with his Joker. Somebody else is due for that at this point, with a character that has not been given a proper or serious take on a character that that rogues gallery is full of them that could be done.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Joker. I have no problem with more Joker. As for Jared Leto, God, I'm at kind of a flip a coin moment. I think it could go either way. I think that he would like another crack at it. The question is, well, is it in the plans anywhere? I don't know. I don't think Morbius has anything to do with it, though. I think that he can do that and still come back to do the Joker. I don't think that would be a conflict at all, because how many people have you seen play on both sides of the road at this point? It's not uncommon. But as for the Joker wasn't super well received in Suicide Squad, so I don't see them in any rush to bring him back to do it again. I'd like to see him do it again. I'd like to see him get a chance at redemption. I still think he was good in Suicide Squad, but I think that there's room for more, but I just don't think they're in any rush to do it. And according to our friend Mark Hughes, the Jared Leto like Joker and Harley movie apparently has kind of gone by the wayside, so that's not in the plans anymore. I kind of doubt that James Gunn is going to bring him back for Suicide Squad 2 or The Suicide Squad. So at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a one and done Joker, which makes me sad because I think the casting was great, and I'd like to see him get another shot at it. All right, next message here is from Peter Skinder. It says, hey, Andy and Jamie, I'm a loyal listener and second-time emailer. I know that you guys like Aquaman, but to quote Jamie, I like Batman. A simple way to split the difference is to move on to The Brave and the Bold for episode reviews after you finish Batman the Animated Series. It would be outrageous. Also, if you're looking for 200th episode suggestions, I'd love to hear your thoughts and review of Batman Haunted Night, which is a trade collection of 3 Halloween-flavored stories by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Congrats on your continued success. Peter, thank you so much for your message. Haunted Night has been on my to-do list for a Halloween episode, so it will come. Maybe this year, maybe this Halloween. So thank you. I agree with you. Brave and the Bold for the next episode reviews. Jamie, what do you think about that?
I mean, that would be my choice and preference if we're not going to do something like Superman or Justice League. So, I mean, I'm pretty much got the door open to about anything. I mean, I have a certain level of morbid curiosity about the Batman. The only one I really have any objection to, and I know this is going to get me crucified from its fans, is Batman Beyond. That's the only one I don't really want to do. But if that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do. But yeah, Brave and the Bold is definitely way up there for me. So I got no problem with that.
No, I don't either. I do love it. All right. So good suggestions. Thank you. Next message here is from Todd Johnson. It says, hey guys, 3 words. Gotham, Gotham, Gotham. I think this season has been great so far. I know it's not Jamie's jam, but Andy, I hope you're enjoying it. I really think they're going for it, and we're being rewarded for not getting off of this crazy Elseworlds ride. They've given us a very sinister Harley and some slice and dice mutants. It's really helped fill the hole left in my soul after Titans. I think for anyone that's jumped ship, they could climb back aboard without much trouble. It's just crazy bat fun. Have a great day, guys. Keep up the best, not just Batman, but best DC Universe podcast out there. Todd, thank you. I mean, I'm a little biased, but I agree with you. We're really good. Gotham, I'm a couple episodes behind, but I loved The Mutant Leader. I definitely told Jamie he should watch that. Yeah, like I'm in it till the bitter end. And what Jamie was just saying about like other villains getting their due, a lot of that's been coming from Gotham of all places. Like their Scarecrow on Gotham is freaking awesome. It's so good. And so, yes, there are definitely things to enjoy there.
Well, I mean, on that show, you have to play with the villains because you don't have Batman to showcase.
This is true.
So, I always think to myself, I should, come back around to that and watch it and get back into it. And then I remember how much I never hated the show. I'm never one of those people that's like, oh, screw that show, I hate it. Again, just to reiterate, for those who don't know, I stopped watching it because I watch so many shows. I have to give up the stuff that I don't really love to watch. I got to give up the stuff that feels like homework watches. So that was an unfortunate victim of that. Krypton was an unfortunate victim of that. I didn't hate that show, but it felt like a slog to me. So I got too much other stuff I can watch that I love to watch, legitimately look forward to every week. I don't need that. Arrow was another one that had to go. I don't like Arrow. I don't hate Arrow, but it became to the point where it was a struggle for me to watch an episode of Arrow without my phone in my hand the entire time. So we're spoiled. It's the day and age we're spoiled. If any one of these shows, I mean, Andy and I've said this until we're blue in the face. If any one of these shows existed on its own in its own little time bubble, we'd watch it with bated breath every single week. Right. But now we have so much content out there to choose from in this geek world that I can afford to say, I'm sorry, I just don't have time for this anymore. So.
Yeah, as Mr. Nobody said, another superhero show.
Yeah, there's plenty of them out there.
There's so many. All right, this next one's from Ron Messberger. It says, hey, Holy BatCast, how you doing? With the date for the Batman set, I started to think about what story I'd like to be told. One from a comic, video game, or an original. Considering this is a younger Batman than our last live-action version, I think the concept of the War of Jokes and Riddles would be great. Don't follow the comic directly, which was sadly a disappointment, but the idea behind it was solid. I could see them using that storyline with Arkham Origins, hiring hitmen to take out Batman. What kind of story would you like to see told? Thanks for everything that you guys do, Ron Messbarger. Ron, you sold me. The concept of the War of Jokes and Riddles was the best. The execution was lacking. But if you want to make it a Joker versus Riddler in Gotham and Batman having to shut them both down, that's a movie I will throw money at in a second. Jamie, what do you think?
Assuming the results are better, yeah, I'm all for it.
As long as it's not a backdoor pilot to Kite Man, the musical.
Oh, wow. 8 issues it took to get to the end of that thing. Huh. Anyway,
I'm a big fan of original stories. I'm not one like, hey, just make Hush, just make Year One, just make The Long Halloween. Like, take inspiration, but I want to go to the movies and be caught by surprise and see something that I didn't know what I'd be seeing. The Dark Knight certainly takes inspiration from The Long Halloween, but there were twists and turns of watching that movie back in 2008, and I was on the edge of my seat, and I was so glad that it was still its own thing. That's the approach I like for movies. Absolutely take inspiration, but I don't just want a straight up adaptation. So, yes, take inspiration from the War of Jokes and Riddles, or take inspiration from something else, but tell a story that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, copy and paste everything you just said. I mean, I can't add anything more to that. My feelings are virtually identical to everything you just said.
Sweet. Next message is from Wayne Goins. It says, I've really enjoyed Zack Snyder's brief take on the DC Universe. I know it's not extremely popular with the public, but I was mesmerized by the visuals, hyperviolence, and deconstruction of the characters. That being said, I started reading some comics that Snyder has drawn from. I've never picked up a comic before, but I just read all 3 Frank Miller Dark Knight graphic novels and loved Returns and Master Race. Since I'm new to this, can you give me any other suggestions as to what to read, particularly things that inspired the interpretation of Henry Cavill's Superman and Ben Affleck's Batman? Thanks. Love the podcast. Wayne, thank you for the message. So, I mean, Dark Knight Returns is the biggest influence on Batman versus Superman. Like, that's number one. Its fingerprints are all over it. For Henry Cavill Superman, I know that Superman Birthright is often referred to. I've still never read it, so I'm only taking that from people who have.
Birthright is a magnificent story, and there was certainly some ideas and concepts borrowed from it. But again, it's that same thing you were just talking about, where there were certainly cues and inspirations taken from it, but it's not a direct translated over to the screen. But there were some really interesting concepts played with the idea of Superman's vision and how he sees things, and the way he can almost see someone's life force because of the vision that he has, being Kryptonian versus human, causes him to be a vegetarian because he can't bring himself to eat meat because of the life force that he would see from the animal or something like that. I mean, it's a unique story about Superman that I think is, for the most part, quite brilliant. And it's one of my favorite Superman stories ever. Not to be a direct influence on Cavill, obviously, but a book just came out, I think it was about 10 days ago, called Man and Superman, written by Marv Wolfman. That was one of the better Superman stories you'll ever see, and it's almost more of a Clark Kent story than it is a Superman story. And, very much at the beginning of his career, it basically chronicles him right at the moment where he moves from Smallville to Metropolis, and it's extremely well done. The artwork is fantastic. It has one of the best renditions of Lois Lane that I've ever seen as far as the physical characteristics and whatnot. I think the artist really went out of his way to make a special Lois in that, and it showed through really well. So I would definitely recommend that, even though it's not a direct influence on the Cavill Superman. It's just fresh in my mind because I just read it the other day.
Yeah, I would say Death of Superman is another big one, obviously.
Yeah.
I will say this: I'm not recommending it, but do you know what I finally read, Jamie? I think you said you liked it, but oh my God, now I know why it has the reputation it does. Is the Frank Miller, Jim Lee All-Star Batman?
Oh man, that thing's just purely insane.
Oh my God. Dude. Okay, some of the most gorgeous artwork of the Batman universe I have ever seen. And some of the shittiest writing I have ever read.
It's unique.
It is so effing stupid. It was like a 12-year-old was asked to write a Batman comic. Oh my God, I hated it. I was like, please delete every word bubble, and then this will be a great comic book.
You didn't even appreciate the whole fight with Green Lantern thing, huh?
Oh, I can't remember.
Painting the room yellow and all that stuff. I thought that was pretty ingenious, actually.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, ugh. What kind of Batman? Like, oh my God. Like, when he's smacking around Robin and calling him like a whiny brat, I was like, what world is this? Who wrote this? Oh God, I hated it. Okay. Anyway, there's some suggestions, but not that one. Don't read that one. Just look up some of the artwork.
I think the biggest notoriety that one has is it's one of them that got recalled because there was a cover or a word panel or somewhere that had a swear word that was not properly edited out, so you could still read it through the censoring portion of it.
Oh,
something
really?
Like anyway, so they recalled that particular book because of that, so it kind of caused a craze over it.
Oh. I mean, and that's where the goddamn Batman came from. Oh, man. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, I'm not mad at anybody that hates it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. But I ain't mad at anybody that hates it.
I bought it.
I get why.
I bought it because I was like, well, it can't be that bad. And then I read it and I was like, oh, okay. Sometimes
what do I
it can
know?
be.
I'm the only guy in the world that actually likes Dark Knight Strikes Again. So don't listen to me.
Yeah. Whew. Anyway, get some poo-pourri for that episode. All right. I think that's good. Thank you, Wayne. The next message is from Zach F, not Zach S. Okay. It says, hi, my name is Zach from Ohio. I'm a huge Damian Wayne fan. He's been my favorite since he's been introduced. I've been disappointed that there hasn't been a live action film or show with him in it. He also hasn't been in any animated movies recently other than his short appearance in Death of Superman. Would you guys like to see him in a live action movie or show or in more animated films? Jamie, you're a bigger Damian guy than me, so...
Yeah, he's grown on me quite a bit over the last couple of years. So, yeah, I'd welcome him pretty much any medium at this point. But it's going to be tricky for whoever's writing him and whoever's giving the performance as the character, because he is one that can very easily turn into an asshole that you just hate instead of an asshole that you kind of find charming. that's a tough thing for a lot of comic writers and even animated film writers to really hit well. So it's a challenge to make him obnoxious the way that Damian is known to be, but still likable enough that you don't want horrible things to happen to him, I guess is the best way I'll say it. Because when I first got back into heavy reading and collecting and watching these animated films and everything else, I wanted him dead. I wanted him gone. I couldn't stand him. But then I read a little bit more and watched a little bit more, and he seemed to be growing as a character. And, of course, depending on the writer, it makes all the difference in the world, of course. So, yeah, I would consider myself a fan. He's not my favorite Robin. He's not my favorite character. But the best stuff I've seen from Damian has been Tomasi's Super Sons books that unfortunately are on their last leg now. I think they have like 5 or 6 more issues of the Adventures of the Super Sons book, and then it's riding off into the sunset. But if you want some good Damian content, that's the best I've found.
Nice. I'm not a huge Damian Wayne fan. I'm sorry. So do I want to see him in a live action film? Not really, especially not before Dick Grayson or Tim Drake. He's been, I feel like he's shown up in a lot of the animated stuff. It's been a couple of years, but there was Son of Batman. There was Batman versus Robin. Those were very Damian heavy. So he's still, and he was in the Teen Titans ones.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's gotten more than his due for the animated stuff, but you're right. He hasn't really made the jump to live action yet. For me, it's not a priority, but for bigger Damian fans than I understand wanting to see that, because as a big Tim Drake fan, I'm still waiting to see him in live action. And frankly, he should come before Damian, because he's a better Robin than Damian. He's a better character than Damian. He's a better hero than Damian.
Well, at least we got you wound up for the night now.
Thank you for the message, Zach. I hope you get all the Damian goodness that you wish for this Christmas. Next is from Clarence Eugene. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast family, with Aquaman 2 now in development, is there any other Aquaman villain you'd like to see in the sequel with Black Manta or Orm?"
Crush.
Jamie?
Crush, and more Crush.
From Finding Nemo?
Yes.
The turtle?
Yes.
He is pretty nefarious.
I actually thought what were they called? The one that John Rhys Davies voiced in the movie. What were they called? The Brine?
Yeah, the Brine.
When I saw them in the trailers and the promotional images, that's what I thought I was getting was Crush, and I about flipped my wig. But it's not what we got. But that's basically what Crush is he's like there's like these lower level triads of Atlantis, these people down on these lower levels in the slums and whatnot, and he's like a crime lord in one of these slums, and he's like a giant crab person. And I think that's amazing, because I don't know why. I mean, crabs are not only delicious, but I think they're really cool looking. So, yeah, that would be my choice.
Cool.
Or Shaggy Man, but I don't know how you just have Shaggy Man just show up out of nowhere, because I don't know that he's necessarily a quote-unquote Aquaman villain by himself.
Yeah, honestly, like my answer would have been the Trench, but we already got the Trench, so I don't really know.
They're getting their own movie. They're fine.
Maybe. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm fine with more of a just Black Manta centered finale.
More Manta the better, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah.
Yeah. All right, next message is from AJ Hansen. It says, "Hi, I'm a longtime listener and a loyal patron. I just want to congratulate you and Jamie on your 200th episode. No podcast deserves the success more than you guys. Your bat news and reviews are top notch, and you even support the Aussies, which gave us such icons like a crazy ranting Mel Gibson, Iggy Azalea, and Cody Simpson. Can't wait to listen to the next 200. You guys are the best." AJ Hansen, number one, first of all, thank you for being a patron. You're awesome. We love it. And thank you for this very nice message. And yeah, we love the Aussies. They're our favorite.
I do. I actually do. It's just that if that one doesn't stop sending me pictures of spiders, I'm going to kill him.
Well, if he's got to live with them, you can at least look at pictures of them.
No. That's why I'm not Australian, is because I don't want to see it.
That's why. Yeah, no, seriously, AJ, thank you so much for this message. We appreciate it. I guess I read it an episode early, but yeah, 200 is coming up, and huge thank you to you and everybody out there who listens and supports us, and it makes it all worthwhile.
Well, now the pressure's really on to actually get to number 200. I hope nothing happens.
I feel like the pressure's on to get to 400 after what he just said. So,
fair enough.
Oh man, I just hope that I can podcast from the nursing home. I hope they have good Wi-Fi wherever they put me. All right, this is from Jesus Casada. It says, "Hey guys, I wanted to say great show. I recently heard the news about the DC superhero Pets movie. A few things. First, it's a great idea, a cartoon movie with talking animals. It's about time someone moves into Disney's territory. Second, why don't WB/DC and Disney Marvel do more of this? To date, WB has only done 2 comics kids movies, Lego Batman and Teen Titans Go to the Movies. 4 if you count the 2 Lego movies. Disney has 0. Somehow Sony beat them to the punch with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now I know that there are kids shows and comics. My kid loves superhero girls, but there's so few features out there for them. How has Disney not produced 10 by now? I think this is a market that's overlooked. They want new fans. Go after them while they're young. Also, I'd love to see more kids' comics and shows on the DC app as well. My daughter loves watching the shorts, but I know she'd love to see all the Superhero Girls episodes up there as well. Again, great show. Also to Jamie, we over here in the Bay Area still have no idea where the Raiders will be playing in August. They're still homeless. Sorry. Jesus, thank you for the message. And I mean, I agree with you. I think that there, we've said this before, is there should be content for adults and teens and kids. And you're right. I think that like online and on TV, there is more kids targeted stuff, but but the movies, there's less of it. And so I understand. And Jamie, I think that you sympathize.
Certainly. I mean, not everyone is a runaway success, but I mean, look at how much money Incredibles 2 made last year. Look at how much, Spider-Verse, I don't know where it's at box office wise, but I mean, it's got to be in the black by now because it's still playing full run screens at theaters around here. So, I mean, it's not dead.
No, yeah. I mean, I think it's past 170 domestic.
That's pretty respectable for an animated film, I
suppose. For a $90 million animated movie. No, that's great. It's Sony's highest. It's Sony's highest grossing animated movie. So it's like there's like the Disney Pixar tier, and then there's everyone else. And as long as everyone else doesn't expect to make what the Disney Pixar movies make, they're good. So Into the Spider-Verse was very successful, had very long legs over the holidays and even now, and so. I think we talked about it 2 episodes ago. Just as long as they budget responsibly, there's no reason not to. I mean, even Teen Titans Go to the Movies probably made it into the black because it was so cheap to produce. Lego Batman, same thing. I think Lego Batman cost $80 million and it made like 300 worldwide, which is not a barn burner. That's not, it's no Aquaman, but with an $80 million budget, it's fine. That's profitable.
Yeah. Not to mention the home video release stuff, which who knows what the real numbers are on those, but
and merchandise, and there's other things as well. So,
it's
a valid point.
I fully expected Disney to go hip deep into this the minute they acquired Marvel. I figured there would be a Pixar Marvel movie by now, maybe more than one, but it just doesn't seem to be a priority. I mean, they have toyed around with more obscure stuff like Big Hero 6. That was an overseas Marvel comics or something like a Japanese Marvel comic, something like that.
It was a Marvel comic, but it was super obscure, and I think it was like one limited series once. But yeah, but that movie was super successful, and frankly, that movie's great. It's still one of my favorite Disney animated features. So like,
love it.
Yeah, why wouldn't you do more of that?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah. Well, I think that hopefully Into the Spider-Verse does start more of those conversations. And we had a spirited debate about Batman Beyond 2 episodes ago. So there you go.
Who knows who was right on that front? I still can't get a straight story. There's apparently a scooper war out there of people fighting over whether or not that actually happened or whether
as for whether it's in production, no, I think it was a rumor. I still think, like what I said on that episode, I still think what happened is someone saw Spider-Verse and was like, hey, WB should do that for Batman Beyond, and then should became they're actually going to talk about it. Like it was a game of telephone. I really think that's what it was.
Hey, I got nothing to test that with.
But hey, sometimes rumor, now that there has been conversation, maybe WB will say, well, maybe we should talk about this. All right, next message is from Mark Jurasevic. It says, hey, Batcasters, I hope 2019 is treating you well so far. I've got a few thoughts and questions. If Shazam is a success, do you think this will renew interest in a Justice League film that would replace Superman with Shazam and maybe include Supergirl and Batgirl, since those solo films are already in development, along with Aquaman, Flash, and Wonder Woman? I personally would love to see Cavill return, but that seems unlikely, and the new Batman film may not be in continuity, and a greater female representation would be welcome. Are you interested in the new Hellboy film? Would you do an Unbreakable Split Glass review on RF4RM? All movies are great, including Glass, and are unique takes on the genre. Anyway, take care and keep podcasting. Regards, Mark. Jamie, you want to go first? So first question
sure.
is if Shazam does well, do you see sort of kind of a rebooted Justice League that includes like some of the old members, but now like Shazam, Supergirl, Batgirl?
I would have no heavy opposition to it, although I definitely would want to keep Cavill's Superman or Superman in some capacity involved in it. But no, I don't believe that will be the case.
I agree. I'd be all for it. I would support it, and I agree getting a greater female representation on the team. But yeah, I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't expect it. Any interest in Hellboy?
Yes, but only because I like Neil Marshall, not because I really like Hellboy or the what's his name, David Harbour, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have any opposition to him. I thought he looked pretty good in the promotional stuff I saw image-wise, but honestly, my gut feeling is I expect that movie to totally bomb.
I'm interested in it as well. I love the first two Hellboy movies. I'm fine with a reboot. I like Neil Marshall. I actually liked the trailer. A lot of people didn't, but I liked it.
I still haven't even seen the trailer,
so I'm down for it. I enjoy Hellboy. I'm afraid it will get lost in the shuffle. I don't think it has a great release date because it's coming out between like Captain Marvel and Shazam, and I think it's going to have a hard time standing out between those two. But I'm rooting for it. And then Unbreakable Split Glass for RF for RM. I'm open to it. I
still haven't seen Glass.
I wouldn't put any money on that happening either, but I'm not opposed.
My first priority for that show is to get that How to Train Your Dragon 3 episode done, but we'll see what shakes out of that.
Yeah. So I like the idea. It's just a matter of making that happen.
I've seen a lot of really split reactions to Glass out there.
I did not care for it.
I've seen a lot of that, and I've seen a lot of people that think it's absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, who knows where I'm going to fall on that side of the line. But
here was the best thing about Glass is like reviews came out, and the reviews were not kind. And I was like, you know what? I don't care about reviews. I'm going to go see Glass and make up my own mind. And everyone on Twitter's like, yeah, good for you. Make up your own mind. Don't listen to those critics. Yeah. And I came out of it and I was like, that movie was crap. I agree with the critics. And they were like, boo, boo on you. You agreed with the critics.
Okay. Social media is so fickle.
I was like, okay. So,
I want
so you only want me to make up my own mind if it's what you want it to be.
Exactly. Now, look, I love Unbreakable. I didn't love Split. I did not. There was a couple things I liked about it. I think McAvoy was really good in it. I think there was a huge missed opportunity with that, which I'll save for the time when we actually would do this episode, which I don't see as being likely. And Glass, I want to see it. I'm very interested in seeing it. But at this point, when it hits Amazon rentals or something like that, it'll be when I see it because I'm not making it to the theater for it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, don't see it in the theater. I saw it in IMAX. What a waste of a big screen.
The one thing I heard even from the people that didn't like the movie,
even if I liked the movie, Shyamalan does not make IMAX friendly movies.
It does not look to me like something that needed to be seen in that kind of a format. But
it's not
at any point. Even from the people that I read didn't like the movie. They're like, yeah, the first 20 minutes was great, and then it takes a hard turn one direction, and it never recovers. So
that's
I'm
not
sure
inaccurate. That's not inaccurate.
I like more M. Night Shyamalan movies than I don't, so I'm definitely interested in seeing it. Just, again, home video. I won't see it in the theater at this point.
There you go. And Anyway, next one here is from Whistle Red. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast family. Besides Patrick Wilson, Billy Crudup, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan in the DCEU, would you like to see the other members of the Watchmen cast in the DCEU? I'd like to see Carla Gugino as Catwoman, Jackie Earle Haley as Hugo Strange, and Malin Ackerman as Nora Allen." Whistle Red, thanks for the question. Well, I feel like you answered your own question. I don't know what I can add to that.
I have no opposition to any of those three.
I feel like Malin Ackerman as Nora Allen is kind of odd. Like Nora Allen, I don't. It seems like a strange character of the entire DC universe to go, that's who I want to cast. I think Carla Gugino's Catwoman. I've heard that before. I remember when we did our fan casting. I cast Carla Gugino as Batwoman. But either way, I'd take it either way. Jackie Earle Haley as Hugo Strange, I think, is brilliant. I think that's
that guy's
great.
a great actor, man.
Yeah.
I know he catches crap for it because the movie wasn't fantastically received, but I actually thought his Freddy Krueger was decent. It wasn't Robert Englund.
He was the only one trying in that movie, so I give him credit for that.
That guy's a fantastic actor, though.
I could also see Jackie Earle Haley as Victor Fries.
I got no opposition.
And Malin Ackerman, I don't know where I'd put her. I have no strong feelings.
She's not very old. Isn't she still only in like her early to mid 30s?
I'm not sure. She was in Rampage. Remember? She wasn't very good in it, but she was in it.
I liked her, but you know.
She was just a
little scenery.
Yeah, she was a little too hammy, and she's not a good enough actress to get that hammy. You know what I mean? It takes
agree.
a certain level.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan was hamming it up like crazy in that
but
movie.
He's so good. Exactly.
Yes.
But he's so good that he sells it. She's just not quite there.
No. But I like her. I mean, I'm not like a Malin Ackerman super fan or anything, but you know, she's given the right material, she could work.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Next message is from Joshua Mathis. It says, "Hey, Andy and Jamie, I hope you enjoyed your break. I wanted to comment on the current rumor regarding Robert Pattinson as Batman. I realize it's a bit early to be reacting to casting rumors, but I recently came across 3 particular fan images of Pattinson in the cowl, and I've got to say, I think it works. If you haven't seen the mock-ups, look them up. I completely understand the dislike if you only know him from Twilight, but he puts out very strong performances in a few indie films. I admit I wasn't on board with Affleck until that first amazing image of him in the suit hit the internet. Of course, it's just speculation at this point. Also, how great was the first episode of Doom Patrol? Take care, Joshua Mathis." Joshua, thank you for the message. How great was the first episode of Doom Patrol? Very great. That's why we committed an hour to it. JB, what do you? Number one, I think the Robert Pattinson rumor is fan speculation. I don't know where it originated from, but I don't think there's any truth to it.
I have no idea. I've never clicked on a single blogger article about this, so I don't know where it's sourced from. It might be one of those stupid Reddit sources for all I know. But at this point, number one, I'm just going to say he would not be my first choice. But at the same time, I kind of want him to get it now because I want to see the entirety of the planet lose its collective mind over it.
I mean, I think I said something very similar in the movie group. So again, I don't think it's I don't think it's a real thing, but even if it were a real thing, I'd support it. Do you know why? Because he is a good actor. I don't blame the actor for being cast in 3 or 4 movies, like 4, teen fiction, supernatural romance movies that are not made for me. I'm not going to punish him for making a lot of money being in those movies that aren't for me anyway. You know, is he a talented actor?
Have you seen the movies?
Yes, I saw the first one. I saw the first one.
I saw the first one. Don't tell nobody, okay? This is just turn off the record button because I don't want nobody else to hear this. I actually didn't mind the first one. I mean, it wasn't great, but I didn't mind it. The second one, I almost turned off 20 minutes in because it was unwatchable, and I never went past. I mean, I finished that movie, but I didn't watch anything past that. So
I saw the first one because I was like, okay, I get that it's like a romance and that's fine, but I'm like, vampires, good vampires fighting bad. Wolves. Yeah, I was like, I like vampires, and then I went and saw it, and I was like, oh man, these ain't even vampires. Forget it.
I mean, I know they make fun of them for the sparkly thing, but I mean it's so hard to come up with original ideas for stories that are this old at this point. Going back a couple hundred years, basically with Dracula. I mean, however old that thing is, I don't know the actual age, but coming up with fresh ideas of the reason they can't go in sunlight is because it exposes them because they're sparkly. That may seem ridiculous to some people, but to me, that happened in the movie when I watched it. I was like, huh, that's interesting. I wasn't mad at it. I mean, it's somebody trying something different. I mean, it's whatever. I'm not a Twilight fan. People don't at me. I don't want to hear about it. I'm just saying the first movie, I didn't hate it.
There you go. I kind of hated it, but then I just was like, yeah, this is not for me. So I was good.
They didn't pick those for me. I don't care.
Yeah. But I have nothing against Robert Pattinson as an actor. I think he's a good actor. He'd need to bulk up, obviously. But I was like, number one,
do for that.
I think it's a fake rumor. Number two, I'm not going to punish him for Twilight because guess what? Man's got to eat, and I would have taken that job too. So good for him. Number three, I hope they cast him just because I like seeing fanboys lose their minds, and it's just fun to watch. So I would support him. I'm pretty supportive of most people when they get cast. I usually give them the benefit of the doubt, so I have no problem with it.
Since we're on this topic now, I'm just going to bring this up because I meant to ask you before we started recording, but have you seen the rumor mill kick back into high gear on Armie Hammer being Batman again?
Yeah. It comes up every time.
It's one of those too good to be true at this point, but that's the one that would cause me to really get crazy about.
On what side? Like in support of or against?
Thumbs up.
Okay.
I'm totally
like I think it's great at this point. It would be anticlimactic because his name had been bandied about for so long, but I like him. I like him in Man from U.N.C.L.E. I like him in Lone Ranger. You can at me. I don't care. I'll fight you about Lone Ranger. He's a really good
actor.
I like him, and he's still young. You get a trilogy out of him easy. I'd be all for it. But I think because it's a name that had been thrown around so much with Batman that if they did announce it, everyone would go, "Oh, okay." I don't think there would be a huge reaction one way or the other because it's one of those that's almost assumed at this point.
I noticed that really has picked up some steam lately, so I just thought I'd.
I'm all for it. I like Armie Hammer. So, all right. One last one from our old pal Stuart from Guernsey. It says, hey guys, it looks like we're getting the Wilson family on Titans. Jericho and Rose are being cast. All we're waiting for is Slade. I have a theory as to why they decided to cut the last episode of Titans. Scenes of Dick as Nightwing were filmed. Interesting. I hadn't heard that. As I heard an interview where Brenton Thwaites said that they had filmed scenes where he evolves into the character all of us fans know, but he wasn't sure if they were going to use them. I think once they knew they were getting a second season and they decided to bring in Deathstroke, they decided to wait for Dick to become Nightwing as they would be adapting the Judas Contract. Do you think that this is what they're going to do, or even loosely adapt it for the show? I can't wait for the Wilson family to appear. Looking forward to episode 200. Also, I hope you enjoyed your travels, Andy. Did the DC Universe app still work when you were traveling out of the U.S.? I'm curious to know if it works when you're out of the country. Thanks, guys. Stuart, always good to hear from you, man. You know what? I used the DC Universe app when I was traveling, but I downloaded a bunch of stuff to it before I left, so that worked, but I never connected it to European Wi-Fi and to see what would happen. I have no idea. I should have checked. I didn't even think about it. Whoops. Might
have blown up your phone or your iPad.
I know, the iPad just starts self-destructing in my hands. So I just kind of assumed I wouldn't be able to use it, so I downloaded Young Justice. I caught up on Young Justice and a bunch of other stuff that I was able to enjoy on the road. So I'm sorry.
It'd be awesome if it did work. Now that all of a sudden there's going to be an influx of people from over in the UK ordering iPhones from over in the US and having them shipped over just so they can do it.
Like buying iPads from the States, have someone download DC Universe, and then have it shipped back.
Yeah.
Anyway, as for the Wilson family, Jamie, thoughts?
I'm all for this idea. I do not, however, want them to do Judas Contract, and I only say that because it was only a year or two ago that we got a Judas Contract movie, which I thought was good. I enjoyed it. I think that Young Justice is getting ready to do their take on it. I think 3 in that time span is just a little bit of overkill, so I would rather Titans did something completely different using those characters.
Cool. I mean, I agree with you. I do think that because we just got it, I do feel like going back to it so soon is quick. I'd rather just see a new story Titans versus the Wilson family. Like that in and of itself, I think is compelling. That's the Titans. I mean, one of their big bads, let's just say, is Deathstroke and his family. So I'm all for it. But
and
yeah,
for God's sake, if the DCEU isn't going to use Manganiello, let him go on the show.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But yeah, like no reason to rush Judas Contract, I think. So, but I'm excited to see how that develops. You know, like this will be the third live action Deathstroke we've had in like 5 years, which is crazy when you think about it. So that'll be interesting to see. Even if Manganiello was just a cameo.
It's heartbreaking thinking about that. So I'm not going to think about it anymore.
Don't think about it. Don't make yourself sad. Life's too short. All right. Well, oh my, how did we go for 2 hours? When did that happen?
What? 2 hours? Holy crap.
We've been talking for 2 damn hours, Jamie. What the? You know, this is your fault.
Of course it is.
Do you know why?
No.
Because before we hit record, you're like, oh, it's going to be a short episode.
Oh,
Don't say that.
I jinxed it.
Don't ever say that.
My bad.
Oh, never say that out loud. I do that every time, and I always live to regret it. I'm like, oh, don't worry, tonight's going to be a short one. Ha! And God laughed.
And then I keep thinking episode 200 is going to be like a glorious 3-hour spectacle or whatever that line from the Muppets thing is. You know
That's
what
right. It's
and
a glorious
it'll
3-hour
like
finale.
35-minute episode.
Oh, I don't think so. I have a lot of content for that.
Oh, great. I can't wait to see what it is.
It's going to be chock full of Batman-y goodness, and I look forward to it. But that's it for episode 199. We're wrapping it up. We're closing the Wayne Manor Mailbox. If you've got a comment, a question, a suggestion, something for us, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. But then we are on to the big anniversary 200. Woo!
Party time.
Oh, my God.
Seems crazy, man. It doesn't seem like we've been doing it that long.
Where does the time go? Oh, man. So, exciting stuff. If you do want to send a message for our 200th episode, you can also send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. You can leave a voicemail at 323-366-9246. But that will do it for this episode 199. Just got to stay alive for one more week to get to 200, Jamie.
One more.
So don't go skydiving.
Yeah, the likeliness of me getting on a plane is really high, you know.
Don't lick your fingers after handling raw chicken. Don't go digging around in buckets of rusty nails.
This is all sage advice.
You know, just tips you can use for your life. But anyway, Jamie, where can the folks at home keep up with you if they don't already?
I am on Twitter, although not very active at the moment because I have a ton of crap going on in my life, but it's BatRaider3960, and Real Fans, kind of the same thing, but probably slightly more active in there than I am on Twitter at the moment.
Sweet. I already told you where to find me, so all you fine folks out there, our Bat family, thank you as always for joining us. Thank you for downloading the show. Please do subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review us on iTunes. That would be terrific. But most importantly, like Michael Keaton's Batman says, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Visit holybatcast.com, like our Holy BatCast page on Facebook, and find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Holy BatCast. Again, if you'd like to send us something to the Wayne Manor Mailbox, you can do that, holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Or again, you can always leave a voicemail at 323-366-9246. But that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of Jamie, I've been Andy, and we will see you next time for the Big 200. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Greetings, Dr. Niles Calder. Please nod your head if you can understand me.
So what is this place?
My home. A safe place for you, others like you, to heal.